My man Jesse, what's up? What's up? How you feeling, brother?
Man, the grind continues, but the build is continuing to happen. So you couldn't pay me to complain, man. How things on your side, my brother?
Oh, it's the same. I hope nobody tells our dentist that we grind in our sleep like this because we're burning that midnight oil. Well, look, guys, if you didn't know, this is the asset class, and we talk about some actionable information. So I'm going to get into the disclosure right now. Then we're going to introduce ourselves, tell you what we do, and then we're going to hop right into the episode. So, guys, here at the asset class, all this information is meant to be used as educational and entertainment wise. We highly, highly encourage you to hire licensed professionals with a long track record of success, bonded in nature if need be, depending on what type of business it is. And then we highly, highly, highly encourage you to do your own research because as you learn more, each one, reach one, teach one. That's how we learn and grow as a community. Jesse, tell me what's good in your world. You're over there collecting those checks, changing those clients' lives. What would they do without you, my guy?
So transformation, man, is the word that has really, as I've been on this particular project, because the last consulting firm that I worked for before going independent, I didn't have the experiences as an entrepreneur myself when I was working with clients. And over the 3 years in between resigning from that firm to taking this contract with this other firm and still operating as an independent, my perspective is just different. So when I'm engaging with my client, it's from a whole different perspective. And the transformation that results from it is completely different. So I'll give you an example. When I first got to Colorado Springs, I didn't have a single client, and I had no idea how I could get any clients. I was online, like on Facebook posting and on Instagram posting random shit, no strategy. I had established my ClickFunnels account with the intent of building ClickFunnels, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. There was no real strategy behind it other than just trying to get information out and like no structure or anything. And that transitioned into, man, I got to get out into the streets. I got to like build relationships. I got to get to know folks, which that goes like almost contrary to who I had been up into that point, because contrary to what most folks that I work with would ever believe, I've always considered myself to be and been comfortable with being like the introvert that, I'm minding my own business. What you got going on don't affect me. What I got going on don't affect you. We just operate on different parallels, and that's cool. And you know what I'm saying? Ain't no thing. But when I'm in my professional bag, I'm coming with all of my charisma and the competence and all all of the things in order to be able to deliver value. Well, when working for somebody, bringing those attributes, it bodes well. Going independent and having to do it all for myself, it was like a real struggle for me initially, as far as like, how am I getting ready? How am I getting ready to get client? This business ain't gonna go. It don't matter how much I know if I can't secure my own clients to actually make it happen. So I started my networking journey in Colorado Springs, just showing up to places, and I quickly learned the value of the know, like, and trust principle of relationship building, because by continuing to show up over time, people started to know my face. And, you know, I would really like put my charismatic, energy filled face on that would mask the introverted side of me that would rather be on my own, you know, minding my own business. And that demonstrating that charisma led to folks starting to not only know me from continuing to see me, but they were starting to like me because I always came with the energy, and I would always be talking my shit. And they like, yo, this dude actually know what the fuck he talking about. So it was like that like element. And then like kind of marrying
Bro,
those
real
two.
real quick,
Yep.
like for everybody listening, he just gave you a ton of game right there. You know, he basically told you got to get out of your comfort zone because there's not any money in there. One. So what feels easy is easily the best way to stay broke. Two, he turned up the charisma even though internally he was feeling different. We can do hard things, and my brother Dr. Eric Thomas says if we want to be exceptional, we have to look at difficult differently. So he was looking at this with excitement, even though he could feel, you know, the tremors or whatever. Terrible and terrific have the same root. So you guys got to pick up the game that he's giving you right now. And the last part, he's going to continue his story. So once you come with the charisma and people like you got to be able to talk your shit. Translating from Jesse Knees to what y'all are listening to is that means you have to know your stuff inside and out, upside down. It's not just knowing the theory of something or reading a book about something. It's knowing how to implement it, and it's knowing how to implement it in different ways and explain it in different ways so that business owner can grasp what you're trying to give them. And when they connect it to their root cause, they'll actually let you help them. And when you help business owners out, you always get paid. My brother, I just had to make sure that they were really listening to what you're saying.
My brother, I appreciate that context. And that is what makes what it is that we're building so incredible, because you hear what I say through a different lens, and I hear what you say through a different lens, and we're able to extract different scales of value from one another to share with our audience because of our own experiences and how we're able to, again, like in real time, relate to the different points that we make respectively. Because I go through that same exercise when I'm listening to you dropping your gems as well. So it was like marrying the knowing and liking pieces together, and the consistency built up the trust element as well. And over time, you know, I was able to get my first client. And then through moving in different circles, I learned about other circles. So then I would strategically insert myself into those circles as well. Well, one of the circles that I had found out about was BNI, Business Network and International. And I heard so many mixed stories about what BNI represented and what it could potentially do for my business. And it was just like, you know what? And the primary reason is you actually have to invest in yourself and what it is that you're building in order to even be in that room. So it's like $800 a year. And then every week, you know, you got venue fees and whatnot. So it's a monetary investment to be there in the room. And what I found out was a lot of folks that had negative things to say about BNI is because they walked into the room with a sense of entitlement. That sense of entitlement was rooted in, yo, I just spent $800 to be in this room, and you charging me venue fees, and you tell me that I have to be here, and you tell me that I have to pass referrals, and you tell me that I have to meet with people to get to know them and their business. so that, you know, we can mutually complement one another. Like, I got to do all of this work, and I done spent this money. And it's like, yo, that sense of entitlement is crazy.
Like, are you a W-2 or are you an entrepreneur? Do you want to get paid off the value that you bring to market? Or do you want someone to cut you a check, meaning they buy you at a wholesale price and then they pay you at retail? Like, which one is it? Like, anytime I hear someone say that, like, I have to go to these meetings, I have to go to a training. You know, I'm always going to trainings. You're always flying around to enhance yourself and to do business. And you and I are get to people. I get to do this. I get the opportunity. And we're looking at it as a blessing, and we're moving forward with gratitude for having the opportunity to be in the proximity of greatness. And like, as Eric Thomas says, you know, to be in miracle opportunity area where the soil is rich and enhanced and you never know what can grow from it. Like, I'm with you, bro. When people are coming with that fugazi, oh, it costs this, it costs that. Just like one of my designations that I got last year, it was $5,000 just for the designation. And that doesn't include like the CEs that comes with it, the monthly fees. I had to fly out to Kentucky. I had to bring somebody with me that's on my team. His thing was $5,000. Like, what are we talking about? I'm talking about the opportunity that now, when I walk into the right rooms or I get the right phone call, the right text, I have done the work and I've invested in myself to turn that into a life-changing situation. So I just had to hop in there on that, bro, because like that shit gets me heated.
No, and again, it's the sense of entitlement. It's like, yo, because I've done X, Y, and Z, I should get this, or I'm entitled to that. And it's like, that's not how that works, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. There's a small pool of people that get like very hot moments, and they're able to leverage it into something great that sustains. But that's a very small pool of folks. There's a larger pool of folks that are able to get that spark, and things are flowing for a moment. But since the true preparation was never there to begin with, it's never sustainable. So they end up kind of puttering out at a certain, because they hadn't done the legwork. They hadn't done the real deal work to truly be prepared. Because when preparation meets opportunity, magical things happen. When opportunity just shows up and you're not prepared for it, again, that runway can be very short as far as what that opportunity can produce over an extended period of time. So again, getting into that room and kind of learning the value of building relationships, like really, you know, doing the work. And initially it was work for me, because again, I've always considered myself to be an introvert, and it was like, yo, I got to break out of this shit. And it's still something that I still struggle with. I still have to fight the urge to be in the corner by myself. You know what I mean? It's a constant, it's still a bit of a constant battle, but I still, you know, force myself to do what I got to do. It's kind of like my strategy to that now is, it still hasn't really, it's gotten more comfortable and natural feeling, but still not like a full type of thing. And my strategy kind of goes in a direction now of, I'm going to continue to do this until I've built a brand that is so undeniable that I no longer have to do those things. Like that's eventually going to be my reality. And it takes the work that I'm doing right now to get there. So through all of the discomfort, through all of the the spiritual drainage that comes from doing something that isn't naturally me, hasn't naturally been me. And I'm qualifying that because who I have been versus who I am and am becoming are completely different things. Like who I've been is one thing, who I am now is one thing, what I'm working towards becoming is another thing. And it takes the continuous, the discipline, the grind. So eventually I'll get to that space where I don't have to do the things that are not the most fulfilling for me. But in the interim, I still have to do the work. Now, the reason that I shared all of that relative to the idea of transformation is when I'm working with my clients now, I'm able to coach them in a completely different kind of way because I am an entrepreneur. During that, the consulting that I did before, it was W-2. Now, I did have one other contract opportunity, but I was so young in my professional career that I really just blew that bag. Like, I had no idea how to structure what it was that I was doing at that time. You know, Bullseye Consulting could have been flowing then, and I just didn't have the business knowledge because I was doing management consulting then, which is different than business consulting. Is again, getting back to the transformation piece with my current client for the contract that I'm on, I'm able to fundamentally help them to help themselves to transform their business into an asset with unlimited growth potential because I approach the conversations with them differently. When I've done this in the past of buying back so much of my clients' time that, you know, they could just kind of take that time off and just breathe, because prior to, they couldn't just breathe. They didn't have they couldn't just take the time off to just, again, just breathe. It, like, their business was completely contingent upon them and the value that they bring to it, to their business. Well, now when I'm working through the process of building the leadership team apparatus that buys back all of the time, I'm complementing that conversation with, so I sent my client a list of BNI chapters in this local area and was like, yo, these are all of the benefits that comes along with being in that room. You know what I mean? Like, it's still work, but it's necessary work, because prior to, there wasn't any capacity to focus on business development because there was so much operational demand on my client. They couldn't just go out and be building the relationships in the community and focus specifically on business development because they were working in the business. They were confined to working in the business, so they couldn't work on the business. And
bro, I don't think they're hearing you. Like, that's bars right there. Like, if you don't have the systems that he helps you create through Bullseye Consulting, you can be so stuck in the business that you can't work on the business. Means that you are laboring and that you own a job. You own a job. You don't own a business.
right.
And you can't get out of that cycle of owning a job because you're so busy owning a job. Anytime there has ever been a problem, whether it's been quantum physics, it's mathematical, it's an accounting, it's tax, it's financial retirement, business leverage, whatever it is, the level of thinking that created the problem cannot solve that problem. you have to go to a different level of thinking or a different perspective of thinking. So without him coming in to show them things that might be counterintuitive, where a lot of business owners feel like the more they're doing, the better their business is, when really it's counterintuitive. You should only be doing what you love to do or what you are best at. And hopefully there's a Venn diagram where those cross over and you love to do the thing that you're best at. And that's what moves the needle the most for the business. So, like, it's just like bar after bar after bar. But don't miss out on that, because that's probably the biggest thing that businesses face when they're trying to scale. You're too busy working in the business to work on the business and to make the community relationships that you swore that you were going to make, and to help the nonprofits that you swore you were going to help, and to help out the kids that were just like you, that had a hope and a dream and needed some guidance, but you haven't created the system to create space and time and money so you have the leverage to help the people that you want to help. So I just had to make sure that they didn't gloss over that. And, you know, I know you're going to continue, but this is probably a great time for people to understand exactly who you are, because you're just giving game. So Jesse, who are you and what do you do?
So fundamentally, I am a transformation artist when it comes to business. And it's not work for me. Like, the only part that's work right now in what I'm doing is having to follow the systems that the firm that I'm contracted with has. Like, that part of it is work and it's exhausting. But the actual front facing of the client, none of that is work. And seeing the results of it. So, for example, we had a conversation about opportunity cost with my client's team, where we broke down the opportunity cost that comes along with missed productivity. So when you think about your team, Earl, do you expect 100% productivity from your team?
Do I expect 100% productivity
In
from
other
the
words,
team?
yes. In other words, and I know you got it, but for our listeners, in other words, when you're paying for 8 hours, do you expect for the things that they're doing for those 8 hours, the full 8 hours, to be producing revenue for your business?
If you clocked in, you better be locked in.
Now, the thing about that is, we're talking about human enterprise. So when we're talking about human enterprise, being realistic in the expectations are absolutely critical. So given that we're talking about leveraging humans' capability to produce for an organization, it's not realistic to expect that in a full 8 hours, that every single thing that they do in those 8 hours is actually generating revenue for the company. Because we're human beings.
What?
And
You mean they're not robots?
right. So to that point, for those business owners that attempt to kind of herd their teams as robots, where they just like constantly cracking the whip, it has an expiration date. You know, there's a life expectancy to that, because again, we're dealing with human beings. So a general good rule of thumb for productivity, or goal for productivity, is about 80%. If you're getting 80% productivity from your team, you're doing damn good. Well, with when we look at what 80% of an 8-hour day is, that is 6 hours and 24 minutes. So if we are getting 6 hours and 24 minutes of productive time out of our team, out of each member of the team in any 8-hour day, we are cooking with grease. And anything above that is just you fucking off the church's money at that point. You living off borrowed time. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole different game plan once you get over that 80%. But as a realistic
it's
goal,
almost like, you on this podcast, you really preach about the idea of job descriptions and the life cycle of an employee for a reason. It's almost like if you have them producing in a way that is sustainable, that you can keep that employee for longer. And if you have them in the right job description, they're more productive in that time.
Bro, so it takes up to from 1.5 to 2.5 times someone's annual salary to replace them. So to be constantly cracking a whip to achieve 100% productivity from somebody, and then when they leave, the business is going to incur a cost to replace them. And when we like actually break down that cost to replace them, so I don't know how many folks have placed ads on Indeed, but and like outside of the free trial that is designed to demonstrate value so that the business owner is willing to actually invest the amount that it takes to generate resumes or applicants for any given job posting that they put out there. Again, when someone initially signs up for Indeed, that first 30 days or so, that's like included, and it's so you can put your posting out there and you'll get all of the applicants in, and you can download the resumes and you can kind of do what you do. After that trial period, oh yeah, they taxing that ass. Like they are taxing that ass for every resume that you receive. You're gonna pay a nice little penny for it, because what Indeed is doing, and I'm just using Indeed as one of the job boards, but it's with all of them. ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, all of the job boards. They know as a business that when they are connecting you with the talent that you need for your business, that there is a value that is associated with that. And the idea of business itself is to be able to monetize provided value. So when one of the job boards connects the right talent with the business, the upside to that for that business is insane when they do it the right way. Meaning, they onboard them properly, they have the right expectations, they got the right accountability systems in place, like all of the things. It's that return is going to be insane. So them job boards, they charge quite a bit once you get through the trial period. But then you also got the time that it takes to actually develop someone so that to the point where they're actually producing for the company, where they're not just in training mode, but on their own 2 feet, they can perform tasks that actually generates the company revenue consistently, without quality defects, without issues. Like that takes time and investment. So again, that's why it takes anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 times someone's annual salary to replace them. So when we're talking about actually building a team that has a positive retention rate, that is profitable to the company
Mm-hmm.
at large, that's where that 80% productivity goal kind of kicks in. So
It's like Pareto's law, bro. It just pops up everywhere
truly, no,
on
that
that
80/20,
80/20.
yes, it is. It is. It's so applicable across damn near everything, bro. Like it really is. And as someone that's constantly talking numbers, like yeah, no, it's a real thing. So that building that infrastructure to be able to sustain. So going back to the conversation with my client's team. So 6 hours and 24 minutes per day in an 8-hour shift achieves 80% productivity. But those
Mm-hmm.
6 hours and 24 minutes, they need to be actively engaged in work that the customer has either paid for already or will pay for. And if the customer is not paying for the 6 hours and 24 minutes, then it's not productive. Because that's what productive time is. Productive time means that the company is making money. If the company ain't making money from the tasks that are being accomplished, it's non-productive. And that time gets handled differently. Now, as we were having this conversation, the difference between the 6 hours and 24 minutes versus the 8 hours is the missed opportunity. So when you add up that missed opportunity by multiplying the gap in time between the 6.5 hours, so basically that hour and a half between productive versus the 80% versus the time that they're scheduled for, that hour and a half for the size of their team throughout the course of the year, when you multiply those total hours by the average hourly rate that staff is paid, that amounted to about $51,000 in the course of a year. Now, that is one missed opportunity. The larger missed opportunity is when we're able to take those hours and multiply it by the hourly rate that the customer is actually charged in order for the work that the team is providing, the value that the team is providing, that added another $152,000 in missed opportunity. So we talking about 100, no, it was 157. So we talking about a $207,000 in missed opportunity for operating at 60% productivity instead of 80% productivity. And when the team like actually saw the numbers, it was like, yo, bruh, we got to tighten up. You know what I'm saying? Because when we tighten up, now that was coupled with an incentive program that rewards 80% productivity. So when you give the awareness and the incentive, what the team produces is transformational. And again, I'm
Can
saying
you
all this.
speak on what the incentive looked like in this example?
Yes, I will. So great question too. An annual bonus. So the way that the annual bonus is calculated is when the profit goal, when the EBITDA or net profit goal for the year is hit, a certain percentage of that profitability gets allocated towards a bonus pot. And that bonus pot gets distributed amongst the team based on their responsibility, their level of responsibility, and the contributions that they've made throughout the course of the year. So it's a whole criteria that is built to measure how much contribution that each employee is bringing to the business as a whole.
So
And
essentially, if I'm an employee and I know that we're performing at a 60% level, that if we get to 80, it creates this much more revenue. And there's a pot of money there. And we have different metrics and criteria where I can prove that not only am I carrying my weight, that maybe I'm carrying more than that and I can earn more than others. I think I'm going to be highly incentivized to go out there and go get it and figure out how I could be productive more than 6 hours and 20 minutes a day. Maybe I want to get to 7. And once I get to 7, maybe 7.5. It's so powerful. This takes me back to telecom days where when I was doing those sorts of sales, we had 21 different criteria we were measured on. So it's like, how quickly do you answer the phone? How long does it take for you to do your intro? After you do your intro, how long does it take you to do your disclaimer? Did you do your disclaimer? What does the discovery portion look like for you? And I know when I became number one in my enterprise, I knew from all the different metrics that it took me 6 minutes and 59 seconds to sell our biggest package. And if I sold like home security on top of the telecom products, it would take me additional 2 minutes and 30 seconds because I had to read more disclaimers. And the interesting thing with our center, we went through a merger. This is the first time I ever came across mergers and acquisition. So it kind of planted a seed in my head. I was like, we're going through a merger. What does that mean? Well, this smaller company was acquiring us, and they pretty much laid down the gauntlet. They said, our center of operation, and there were 3 others. They were going to get rid of 2 of them, and they were only going to leave 1 to do sales. Everyone else would have to convert to a different job title. I am not a customer service personality. I don't care. I don't care about your problem. I don't care that this happened. And it's not that I don't care. I want people to be happy, but my skills are better utilized connecting with new clients and keeping the lights on. So we all banded arms. And over the next 4 months, we went from bottom 4 in 15 metrics to top 3 across 21 different metrics. So with that, we were producing well over, a few $1,000,000 extra in revenue for the business per month. And that includes our extra income and incentives we were getting. Foolishly, they ended up closing our center anyways, even though we won this sweepstakes, if you want to call it that. We won, we beat the other centers, and they still closed it down. So that goes to poor management of talent, which is, a whole different conversation.
Well,
that
there's that. There's that, but then there's also, because I have another client that owns a franchise location, and their corporate headquarters, they measure the success of each individual location based on the amount of revenue that they generate, which is a flawed metric, because when a location is producing $2 million a year, well, that sounds pretty good from the layman that doesn't understand how business actually works. Like, yo, you own a $2 million company? Like, how did you
be killing it?
Yeah, how did you do that? Until you find out that they spent 2.1 million on cost and expense to run the business. And then it's like, oh shit, you own $100,000 liability every year. That's a whole different. So it's like, how can we say that these locations are the best performing when we're only looking at it from the revenue perspective? So what you're describing there is they incentivized you guys to generate revenue. That doesn't mean that they had solid business principles behind the scenes to make sure that the business as a whole was doing well. So it's the equivalent of just pouring water into a bucket that got a bunch of holes in it. So they were bringing all of this, your team was bringing in all this revenue, but like the bucket that they were pouring that that revenue into, it was just riddled Swiss cheese style with holes. So as quickly as the revenue was coming in, it was probably going right back out, and that's not sustainable, which is what causes those types of shutdowns to happen.
Yeah, it definitely can. I thought this one was a unique situation because, through different locations and whatnot, we all got the same calls, and they didn't change the marketing budget. So they kept all those things fixed, and I just saw people trying harder, which is a rarity when we're talking about a large sales force of, so like my
So
personal team.
what's the possibility that the revenue that your team was generating was also making up for what other teams were not producing?
There is a slight possibility of that, but there were so many metrics. Like I said, it went 21 deep, where it also factored in the average of different teams, medians, across different teams per center and whatnot. So it went pretty deep into the quantitative analytics. I think the
But
big thing for this merger.
did they also have the accountability? Because you can have all of the metrics. If the
Mhm,
metrics are not, because data is generally only as valuable as how and when it's used. So
that's right.
they can have 87 metrics that they use to measure the effectiveness of somebody. If they're not using that data properly and they're not holding the other teams accountable, then those metrics don't really mean a fucking thing. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think management could have been better, because some of higher level management, a good portion, they were very green to their positions. And the big push that I understood when I talked to high level corporate was that they wanted to get rid of these centers, just from an identity type of thing, where they didn't believe in having one center where we had sales professionals as well as technical professionals. So IT support, customer care support. They didn't believe they should be in the same building, and they wanted each site in each state to do something different, regardless of how successful they were. So that was really the driving force that made it an interesting situation, and probably one of the best lessons I've ever learned, because I ended up getting played in that whole situation where, I had thousands of dollars in commission that I didn't get paid out at the end. I didn't get my severance because I was fired through a technicality, and that technicality went to pretty much all of the top earners. Because with the merger, the terms were people that were there for so many years, they were going to get this severance for 10 years based on your average. And since we were kicking butt, we were already the number one team before the incentive. So we just turned it up a whole nother level. People went from having a 1 hour lunch to a 30-minute lunch. So you can get an extra 30 days of client exposure every day. So we were turned up to the max. And I really, really appreciate that situation because it taught me the importance of contracts. It taught me the importance of managerial style. Um, it like I learned so many things through that one interaction. One of those things was being a W-2 is not for me. Where if I generate revenue for you and it puts me in a position where I can lose my position, regardless of how good I am at my exact job, that I can't enhance the business around me. I can't pull on these pulleys and levers and help advance the business. So that pushed me even further into entrepreneurship. So I'm really glad that happened. And right after, I had a very similar experience with another company that ended up downsizing because they changed their leadership team from a very, very strong leader to someone in the family that was very green and did not handle the marketing budget appropriately. And then they had to downsize because there was this huge drag on the business. So instead of, figuring it out, finding a bridge loan and whatnot, they let a lot of their best folks go. And that was the last time I ever worked a job. That was in 2020. So I'm like going on 6 years of pure entrepreneurship. Like, it's a beautiful, crazy life, man, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
And that's where I've been. So going back to the very first question that you asked at the beginning of this episode, I've really been sitting with this one word and foundational principle of transformation, because it's one thing for, wearing the title of business consultant or business coach. I know that when people hear that, their eyes just kind of glaze over and they just like, another
one. For real.
Yeah, it's like life coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's a life coach. Everybody's a business coach. Everybody's a business consultant. And it's like, nah. You know what I mean? It's this shit is transformation, bro. Like, I've watched over an 8-week period my client step back from his, like, I'm seeing it. You know what I'm saying? It's not no speculation. Like, I see how many days.
No cap in your rap.
You know, like, I know how many days that he's been in the office. You know what I mean? Since we started getting all of this shit kicked off, which is not something that he could do before. Like, he's told me the stories of how things have been and what it looks like now. And again, that's just in 8 weeks. So it truly is, when done the right way, it's transformational in a real kind of way. So I'm just I'm fulfilled. I'm blessed, bro. Like, to be able to operate in a space in which, because nothing that I've done feels like work, with the exception of the corporate bullshit from the contract I'm on. But everything else is just swimmingly, bro. Swimmingly. Because ultimately, what matters to me the most is my client and my clients. I got multiple clients. And, like, by working with the one client on the behalf of the contract that I'm on, it sharpens me to be able to deliver more value to my clients that I built in Colorado Springs. Like, when I'm on the calls with them, because that work still continues. It means that my days are longer. You know what I mean? Between the 2 podcasts, the clients that I've maintained, and this contract that I'm on, the days have gotten longer for sure. But the sharpening of my sword has, because I'm able to deliver a different scale of value to my current clients, because I'm constantly exercising my vernacular of how I deliver the strategies. Because that was another thing that I had to, like, really work through when I first got to Colorado Springs, where, I wasn't talking to people, I was talking at them, and I was talking over their head. The way that I articulated certain things, I wasn't really good with formulating narratives to educate. And as I'm, like, operating in the space now, I'm constantly with multiple people all day long, coming up with new creative ways to educate folks in a way that they are actually able to retain and execute upon the strategies, as opposed to it being like a bunch of word soup that may sound good on paper, but ends up flying over people's heads, which then makes it not sustainable in its implementation. So it's like,
that's big, bro. I struggled with the same thing, because we invest in ourselves And we learn these things, and we're learning them at the highest level, because the rooms that you and I are in and the folks we're learning from, they're giving that stuff to you at the highest level. And you just got to figure it out. You got to do the extra homework. You got to do whatever to be able to understand it. But to really master it, you got to ingest that information and be able to kick it out in multiple different packages, depending on personality type, depending on industry and experience. And that's what shows that you have true mastery over whatever you're doing, when you can explain it to a 5-year-old, or when you can explain it to a whole bunch of different 5-year-olds, you know? So that's heavy, my G. And I think that's why a lot of people miss out. I tell a lot of folks to read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And it, I just feel like I remember watching his TED Talk before he wrote the book. And man, it was like 240p on YouTube. And I'm like watching it because I couldn't go to the event live. I'm like, man, this dude is kicking absolute heat. I'm going to make sure that I implement this the best that I can into what I do. And I've seen a complete transformation in conversations that I have with folks. Even, I was talking to a young lady who left real estate to go into counseling. And she was at a point where she was like, I was doing great, I was making great money. However, I wanted to help people on a realer level than just helping them get into their first home or getting an investment property. So that's why I shifted over into counseling. I was like, that's dope. And then we're starting to talk about like her belief system. And it's like, do you have an aversion to wealth? And she kind of did. So the interesting thing was, she almost felt some guilt in the money that she was making in real estate, because she couldn't control the market. As we know, the market went crazy after lockdown, where a lot of homes doubled. So people were very, very greedy in the market, and it was very much so a seller's market. That left a bad taste in her mouth with her framing of her mind, even though she was making giant checks. So from there, we're having this conversation about her beliefs and whatnot around money. I was like, wow, I wish you could have framed this in a way where you were moving both and instead of either or, where you were using your capital and real estate to create a nonprofit that helped people get mental health, to help people get counseling. Maybe you have a partnership with a nonprofit that does that. It's so many different ways you could have had both, and where you could have been producing this incredible lifestyle for yourself and helping people. And it was interesting to see it like click in her head. And she's like, well, explain what you do, because you help businesses with taxes, and you help people with like retirement and get money. Like, how do you connect with them? And then I started explaining how I'm an advocate for these folks, how I am their best chance at success in my given lane. And because I make all these different systems and programs merge together so that they're all aligned, these people are less stressed, they're more profitable, they get to keep more of what they deserve, and it gives them the opportunity to be more charitable, if I clear up a bunch of money for them, I can then send them to Jesse, and Jesse can help them scale. And they're going to be able to scale without paying more taxes. They're going to have a better lifestyle. And with that lifestyle, they get to enjoy their kids, they get to enjoy their wife, their church, and everything else that's important to them. So then the clients become a both and type of person. And then they're reaching out to people and putting them into our ecosystem. And we're just repeating the process, and we're creating these ripples and waves that are going to outlive us, where it's going to be legacies that folks don't even know why they do things the way they do, but if they trace it back, they know it's coming from Jesse and I. So I think it's so powerful when we speak to someone at their own level and help them really understand and connect the dots to the why. Like, no one really cares about tax strategy until I show them, look, if we do this right now, not only does this help you, but look at your kids. We're going to save your kids $7 million in taxes because we're taking care of it right now. So that means the generation after that, if they keep following the blueprint that we put in the trust in the family constitution, that next generation, they're going to have $25 million. And this thing is going to keep going and going and going. And you can create 4 generations of wealth, and you can create 4 generations of do-gooders. You know, we have to normalize, especially in our community, creating trust fund babies. Instead of hating on them, we need to be making them. We need to be studying them.
Bars, bars, bars. I hate that from the time that I've been on the road, my Wi-Fi be so kind of shaky that we can't reliably, we can't reliably depend upon what's
some
it
of the
called?
other platforms.
Riverside. Yeah, like we got the Don DeMarcos and the Flames and the applause and all of the things. And you definitely would have got the you know what I'm saying? Like Don DeMarco. Yeah, man. Yeah. So no, it's this especially where the world is moving at, the direction that the direction that the world is moving in. It's going in a space in which those of us as human beings that are not grasping the things that you and I are talking about right now, it's going to get murky. It's going to get significantly murky, because the way that capitalism works, the only way that it works is when there are people that are basic victims of the system, unbeknownst to themselves. It's the only way that it works. So it's I don't know, man. It's unfortunate to kind of think about what that's going to look like in the coming years. But like, what gives me a level of peace, and because you and I as individuals, we can only do what we can do, and collectively as a unit, we can only do what we can do. But one of the things that we can do is continue to put out the information, and those that gravitate toward it hopefully take action upon it, because that's what we can do. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can feed the ecosystem in that way. We can't change the way that capitalism is structured. And these are like the cheat codes to leveraging the way that the system is structured. It's like giving out the rules of the game, that it's all because nothing that you and I talk about on a weekly basis is rocket science, and it's all public information as well. The challenge is, going back to the point that you were making a little earlier, the rooms that you and I navigate, we hear the information, and it's up to us to go make it make sense to ourselves, or we could just walk past it. Like, we have the wherewithal and the discipline to actually go back and do the research to understand what it was that we just heard. So in 2020, when I first started working in small business consulting, I didn't know a fucking thing about accounting. Nothing. Like, it was so overwhelming. One of my partners that's a CPA, I said, bro, like, what can I learn? Where can I learn about profit and loss statements and balance sheets and all of this shit? And like that was, I would have to front face clients with that deficiency. And in the evenings, so many late nights as a YouTube warrior of figuring out how this asset offsets this liability on paper and what it all means. How EBITDA is, like what EBITDA is, how, market value is engineered. This countless nights of, bro, like I got to get to it. I got to figure this shit out. I got to keep on going about it until it makes sense to me. Because I learned how I learned. So I had to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And each week, you and I are able to take the investments that we've made into ourselves and to have these conversations where, again, our audience can choose to be entertained by it, be bored by it, or be inspired with the opportunity to, because Hove got a bar for all things. Like there's a whole bar for many things that happen in life, and one of his that continues to be applicable to the conversations that you and I have are, Hove did that, so hopefully you ain't got to go through that. Like those countless nights that you and I have had to endure to really understand and master what it is that we've respectively chosen to do that for. We now share the information directly. Like it's no fluff on it. It's like really straightforward. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really straightforward. When you take what you're hearing and you just go execute, you are bypassing all of the shit that, you know what I'm saying, that Earl and I can speak to, that we've had to endure and grow through.
It takes a certain place of both confidence and humility to be able to take in new information and execute it. And it kind of leads back to what I was saying about being in certain rooms. Until you've been in certain rooms, you don't understand that when you get information, you got to go execute on that immediately, or there is no information. I got a guy who is a pseudo mentor. I get to talk to him once a year. I get about 15 minutes. He, as soon as a certain company goes public, he becomes a multi-billionaire. Right now, he's worth about 625 million. When I get to talk to him, the first thing he's going to say is, what did you do with the information that I gave you? I'm like, look, I did this, and I got this result, which led me to do this. What's my next step? If I don't have those things, there is no new information. There is no 15-minute conversation. I'm not getting any new information. And it is unfortunate that a lot of folks don't understand that. I have some people right now that I've onboarded that are new in their business and new to business in general, and they don't really understand what I'm doing for them. They don't understand the value of it. Now, have I communicated the value? Of course. Have I explained and shown numbers and charts? Have I tied it back to their lifestyle? I've done all of those things. So I've done my job. But this person mentally just isn't there yet. They might be 1 year into a business and they made 150 grand in their first year. That was not Earl Harden's story the first year in my business. I didn't make any money for a while. It took a while for me to figure it out in different business models. But I'm saying that to say this, for certain people, they're not going to pay attention until they pay a price because they associate value with cost, where you have to be in these certain circles. You have to have a certain level of intellect to realize that value doesn't necessarily have to come on a cost, because you could get literally $1 million worth of game for free. one of my partners that we do the tax business together, I taught him about business funding. He's put himself in a position right now where he just submitted a $25 million piece of business through business funding because he never understood how it worked. Introduce him to someone who's great at doing that sort of thing and writing that sort of business. If this ends up going through, he's going to make a few $1,000,000 like that. But he understands that when I teach him something, it's not because I like to hear my own voice, it's because I know this inside and out. Versus a different person that we've referenced on this podcast before. I gave them game in their industry, and I gave them a little bit of IP. I said, "Hey, I know you're in this."
The cool part about what you're talking about now, and I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
Nothing has changed. It's still the same shit, bro. With that cat, it's the same. It's mind-boggling to me to continue to watch it still happen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's legitimate. Where there are so many wantrepreneurs. That's what a lot of folks. That's what Darren Hardy likes to call them, a wantrepreneur. You want people to think you're an entrepreneur. You want to showcase the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur, but you do everything but actual business.
Say entrepreneur. Oh man.
I encourage people, if you're gonna do the work, you're gonna get an LLC. If you're gonna make videos and posts and all these things promoting yourself, make sure you're directing people to an expert. One of my favorite bars is from Russ, the rapper singer. And I'm paraphrasing, but he says, everybody's out here looking for more followers, but where are you taking us? I was like, oh, that's such a bar.
And he is a genius. Above being a great artist, he is a genius business mind. Like, he applies sound business strategy to what it is that he does. So, for example, in the music industry, which is very predatory in nature, ridiculously predatory in nature, the record labels basically give out very extremely high interest loans for artists to put together music, and it's distributed in the form of an advance. So you get the artist talking about, yeah, I just got $1 million. Well, in order for you to actually fulfill the requirements of the contract that you signed to get that $1 million, that means that the company is going to make millions, hundreds of millions of dollars off of your $1 million or $2 million that you signed the contract for. And it's terms on that $1 million that they gave you in advance. Like, unrealistic. It's the most predatory bullshit ever. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of insane.
Those 360 deals, I feel like would not be legal.
It's all of them. Like, they all should be.
Any other industry. So not just a 360, there are other terrible. But I mean, the 360 deal is brought up most often when I think about almost any other industry. It would be illegal. It would be completely unsound and unethical to be able to do that, to be able to tell someone, like in your example, you get $1 million advance and they're pushing you, they're putting marketing dollars behind you. And at this point, the company might have made 5, 10, 20, $30 million off of your efforts. But the way that the deal is structured, you can only pay back based on the percentage that you're getting from them. So you might only be making 2.5% off of the 25 million that you made them. And with that 2.5%, you're supposed to be paying back your $1 million advance. So when I think about those sort of numbers, the first thing that pops in my head is sharecropping. It's, oh, you're not a slave. No, no, you're free. You can do anything you want to do. However, you can't own land. You can't own the means of production. You can't own or control the means of distribution either. You can't own anything that has to do with the production of the seed, the soil. And then also, you're not going to get paid in currency. You're going to get paid on a credit basis. We're controlling the amortization of that credit piece, and you always end up owing more than you've earned. Like I look at, the music industry as a parallel.
That is such a
Sharecropping,
brilliant,
bro.
that is such a brilliant analogy, bro. That is such a brilliant analogy, which again, so for an artist like Russ, what he's recognized is by treating himself as a small business, he has independently generated revenue to then reinvest back into his company. So now he can go to banking institutions and investors and get investment directly from the source, not these predatory advances, but traditional capital securement. Like it's brilliant. Like he literally he goes to the bank and gets money from the bank. He goes to investors and gets money from them directly, and he just cut out the middleman. So he's still not to grow. He's still not spending from his direct earnings. He's using the system as it's designed as a small business operator to scale exponentially. Like, dude is a brilliant business mind, man.
I look at guys like him, and he's a great artist too.
Yes.
On top of that, which makes it even better. I look at guys like him. I look at Currency. I look at Larry June, and I think they are. And Tech Nine has a crazy following. He has the most respect in the world for me. Where these guys are independent, and they are the opposite of a plant. And the music industry is fearful of guys like them. They were so afraid of Nip. Oh my goodness, they were afraid of Nipsey. Where we have these guys who go, wait, so this is what the game is? Basically, the music industry is functioning as a bank, and they're probably not even using their money. They're probably going to a bank to be able to get to the funds. Once the funds are distributed into a trust or whatever type of fund from said institution or said entity, they're giving me in an advance, they're recouping all of the money, paying off the initial debtor, and they are making money in between that gap. So let's say the terms on the money are maybe a 10% loan. They're giving me this $1 million advance, but I'm paying a 35%. It's out of control. So they're controlling the amortization of said loan and the means of production and the marketing. And a lot of times the cost in-house, where it comes from the studio, the cost of pressing CDs and vinyls, the cost to be able to get it onto these digital platforms like the Spotify's of the world, the Apple Musics of the world. So essentially, they've built a business where they have all the verticals around the artist, and they're just pimping the artist out. So I highly encourage people to look at these artists, listen to these artists, especially because they kick real game too. That's the thing that I love, where you getting the real stuff. It's funny anytime I see like an industry push story, they're like, is Russ too braggadocious for hip hop? And I'm just like, man, this is such a plant story. So he's too braggadocious, but Drake isn't. Drake Drizzy Roger isn't braggadocious. I think it's more so because he's teaching them about liberation of the mind, the spirit, and the finances. Same thing with Larry June. He's saying, bro, you don't need all those pills. What you need to do is stack your money up and start leveraging real estate. You need to drink smoothies. You need to drink alkaline water. You know, you need to have a woman that actually helps you stabilize your nervous system. And they're like, damn, why won't he talk about Molly? Why won't he talk about syrup? Why won't he talk about these opiates where we make billions of dollars off of them? And then when someone becomes addicted, we make billions of dollars off them being in the hospital, in different clinics, in different rehab facilities as well. Why is he trying to get them off the hamster wheel and get them healthy? I'm just saying, though, allegedly.
Bars, my guy. Bars, my guy. So again, this here platform will continue to operate as a echo chamber of the opportunities that exist to us all to leverage the system as it's designed. Because the necessary changes to the system to be more beneficial to the collective in society, there is no incentive for that to happen. So all of the incentives are geared towards the most wealthy and to do continuing what they've always done. So, you know, I guess the easiest way to summarize that is ain't nobody gonna save none of us. Ain't no savior coming. We can either learn the game to leverage the game or get abused and victimized by the game, because the game gonna be the game. And that is what we do here on the asset class. So as we continue to dig deep into this subject matter, for those of you who continue to tune in and learn, we appreciate you. But for those of you who actually put action behind what you're hearing, we honor you. It's been my man Earl.
My guy Jesse.
It's been the asset class. Thank you for listening.